Thank you very much, Ishmael, the director of this program. Let me start by greeting the chairperson of the NSFAS board, Mr. Ernest Khosa, my advisors who are here, the CEO of NSFAS, Mr. Nzimande, all the DDGs who are here from the Department of Higher Education and Training, NSFAS executive managers and staff, officials from the Department of Higher Education and Training, student leadership, and our special guests indeed. I saw our two matriculants who are here. They promised me that they are not writing today. That's why they are here. That was the first thing I asked. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to announce that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS as we call it, is opening its application season for learners and out-of-school youth from poor and working-class backgrounds to apply for funding to study at public universities and TVET colleges in our country. Considering the impact of coronavirus, now more than ever, the demand for student funding has increased. As the government, we are to take an exhaustive exercise to categorize the students who are applying into the following 5 cohorts, which we believe will cover all students who have potential and in need of funding. These are the categories that NSFAS is putting the prospective applicants for purposes of processing them quicker, as you will understand when I explain later. The first cohort is first-time entering students who are SASSA beneficiaries, very specific on this category. The second cohort is a returning student who is also a SASSA beneficiary. The third category is first-time entering students who are not SASSA beneficiaries. And the fourth category is returning students who are also not SASSA beneficiaries. And the fifth cohort will be students living with disability. The above cohorts apply to all natural citizens and permanent residents as defined by the South African Citizenship Act of 1995. As government, it is our duty to make sure that all those with potential are not prohibited by lack of funds to be able to access post-school education, and we are proud of what this new board of NSFAS has now delivered, as we will announce today. The board has assured me that the 2022 application process will handle student application efficiently and make the application process seamless. But before I announce the 2022 application process, let me share with you progress government has made since the reorganization of NSFAS. Let me start with what I regard as very important achievements by NSFAS, just to remind ourselves. Funding for university and TVET college bursaries for poor and working class students through NSFAS increased by 107% from 20 billion rands in 2018 to 42 billion rands in 2021, or even slightly more than that. In the 2020 academic year, the third year of the implementation of fully subsidized funding for students benefiting from the DHET bursary grant for university and TVET college students, that is NSFAS, amounted to 751,858 students, made up of 489,912 university students and 261,404 TVET college students, respectively. These indeed are not small numbers in terms of government assistance to students at university and TVET colleges. In essence, what I would like to say is that indeed there is free higher education for the children of the working class and the poor in this country. That is a fact. The total number of university students funded, including funding from other government departments, that is the Department of Basic Education Fundza Lushaka Bursary Scheme, the National Skills Fund, and the SETAs, increased by 45.4% from 346,966 students funded in 2018 to 504,366 students funded in 2020. This is important. This is funding from Fundza Lushaka, which is a Department of Basic Education program, our National Skills Fund under the Department of Higher Education and Training, as well as the Sector Education and Training Authorities, which are entities of the Department of Higher Education and Training. These are monies that have actually been put into student funding in addition to NSFAS funding. The overall student demographic profile of university and TVET college students who have benefited in 2020 was comprised of 92.9% African, 4.2% colored, 0.7% Indian, and 0.9% white, and others at 1.4%. NSFAS has been particularly effective at targeting female students, who constitute 61.5% of all students funded by NSFAS. In 2018, this was 61.4%. This is actually similar to the overall representation of female undergraduate students in the public university sector, with just over 60% women undergraduate generally students in our universities. This is a huge, huge achievement by this government in terms of affirming women in post-school education and training. The total number of female students who received NSFAS bursaries in 2020 increased by 30.6% from 360,344 in 2018 to 470,696 funded in 2020. In the 2020 academic year, NSFAS funded 1,421 university students with disabilities compared to 1,921 students in the prior year, a decrease of 26%. Of course, this decrease is of huge concern to me, and I will give this focused attention as to why are we declining in terms of numbers in supporting students with disabilities. The NSFAS and Department of Higher Education and Training Disability Fund is aimed at providing financial support for students with disabilities who are financially needy but academically capable. Students with disability who qualify fall within the maximum threshold of up to 600,000 rands family income per annum. In other words, whilst the limit for NSFAS qualifying students in terms of total family income is 350,000 rands, but for students with disability, the limit is 600,000, which means all students with disabilities who come from families who earn up to 600,000 rands per annum qualify for NSFAS. In addition to paying for students' full cost of study, this bursary also provides students with disabilities with assistive devices like wheelchairs, hearing aids, adapted laptops, and so on, as well as human support that we provide by providing scribes, tutors, sign language interpreters at a capped amount that is reviewed annually by NSFAS. This, in fact, is a real wraparound support for students with disabilities. It should be noted that NSFAS funding increased, just to remind ourselves, from 5.9 billion in 2014-2015, another way of illustrating this increase, to approximately 35 billion in 2020. As you know, additional funding was reprioritized to support a NSFAS shortfall in the 2021-2022 financial year, which is the current financial year, taking the total NSFAS budget to approximately 42 billion rand. This is a significant contribution by government to supporting access to higher education and success of students from poor and working class backgrounds. And indeed, I am very proud of the achievements of NSFAS. What we have also not said, by the way, which needs to be said, is that this year, 2021, is the 30th anniversary of NSFAS, which started in 1991 as the Tertiary Education Fund for South Africa. I would also like to make the point that our departmental cohort studies have also shown that NSFAS students perform better on average at a higher level than the whole cohort of undergraduate students. This is contrary to what sometimes has been said about the performance of NSFAS students. And it shows that the financial support interventions of government are having a positive impact. Under its new board and management team, NSFAS is working hard to ensure that it operates as an effective and efficient entity, fulfilling its core mandate in the best possible way. My department and ministry will continue to do everything possible to support NSFAS in continuing on this developmental trajectory. As you may know, NSFAS received an unqualified audit report for the outcome for the 2020-2021 financial year, which is a significant improvement on previous outcomes. And we want to say to you, Chair, and the CEO and your management, congratulations and well done, and keep it at this. That's the challenge. Now, let me then return on the 2022 application process. The applications process that I'm going to be announcing now is also open to individuals who are already enrolled at institutions but are without funding and they qualify financially for NSFAS funding. I'm pleased to say that the application system will be open from Tuesday, the 2nd of November, 2021, until the 7th of January, 2022, when the National Senior Certificate results are released. So we are talking about a period of just over 2 months for students to apply. The application season has previously been open from September to November annually. The reason for this was to allow students to apply well in advance before the upcoming academic year, but most importantly to allow NSFAS to process these applications in time before the approaching academic year starts, and to give students time to submit missing supporting documents if necessary. I'm aware that there's been some concern about the perceived late opening of applications this year. However, I would like to reassure everyone and the country as a whole that this will in no way disadvantage those who seek NSFAS for support for their post-school studies. For a while now, NSFAS applicants have complained about the time they have had to wait for a funding decision from the scheme if they had applied. This was due to the thorough verification process needed to identify eligible students. This prompted the scheme to go back to the drawing board and develop an applications process now and systems that are not only user-friendly, but will also provide real-time responses to students without compromising the application validation process. Now, let's not speak big English. What is real-time? Real-time, it means for most of the applicants, as I will explain, will know as soon as they apply, almost there and then. They will be able to know whether they qualify or not. That is the new addition and improvement. Although it will not be everybody, but it will be the majority of the applicants. We will explain this a little bit more further down. NSFAS began working on this process earlier in this year, and the time was needed to perfect the process, and this meant that applications could not open in September as usual. It was critical that we waited until the system was ready for implementation. I am assured by NSFAS that the new faster application process will make up for any perceived lost time and will see many students receive their funding results much faster. As I say, the majority of the results will be immediately available as you apply. You will get an immediate indication if you qualify, and others may take up to 48 hours, with very few exceptions that will take beyond that. By the way, I'm not only assured by NSFAS, I was at NSFAS offices on Tuesday morning, and I went through the system. It was demonstrated to me. And I could see, indeed, applications, just the dry run, coming and then confirming at the same time. You qualify or you have to wait for a short while. This was a result of the fact that NSFAS initiated an enterprise-wide review of all critical systems aimed at delivering mandated services to students and other stakeholders, including new applications. Of course, the NSFAS leadership is here. You will be able to have a chance to ask them directly if we are interested in more detail on this score. One of the areas that have been reviewed extensively are the processes and enabling technologies centered around the organization's ability to assess, confirm, and communicate eligibility decisions to students. These improvements entail partial system redesign, a fresh look at some business processes, and closer integration with some of our key partners in determining whether students qualify, such as the South African Revenue Services, the Department of Home Affairs, the Department of Basic Education, the Independent Examinations Board, and the credit bureaus. The magnitude and scope of these changes warranted a delay in the launch of the 2022 application cycle, as I have said. And also these will not, as I have explained, impact negatively, especially for the majority of our students. The applicants, by the way, more than 60% are SASSA grant recipients, and we are able to establish, to check, double check this instantly, if indeed they've been SASSA beneficiaries. And they make up approximately 65% of the cohort of student applicants, that is the SASSA beneficiaries. The balance of approximately 35% of the cohort of students applicants will go through further processing, but this time be given a much faster response than in previous application cycles. The faster response time in these cases is made possible by a renewed commitment by our partners, as I have outlined them. I look forward to hearing reports of a successful NSFAS application system, and I urge students to apply as soon as possible and to provide the necessary information to support their applications and ensure that the process goes smoothly and quickly, as it is meant to be. Who qualifies for NSFAS funding? Let's remind ourselves this is a very important matter. Students qualify to get NSFAS funding if you are a South African citizen or permanent resident who plans on registering or already studying at a public university or TVET college in South Africa. And as I have said, they will fall into the categories of SASSA grant recipients or people whose combined family income is not higher than 350,000 rand per annum, and people living with disabilities, as I have said, with combined household income not exceeding 600,000 per annum. The correct supporting documents are important in ensuring that NSFAS processes your funding application in time for your registration at an institution of higher learning. Students must go through the list of required supporting documents, which include the following. All applicants must provide a copy of a South African ID, a temporary ID issued by the Department of Home Affairs. Non-SASSA applicants must also provide ID copies of their parents or legal guardians or spouses. I nearly said spies. and also smart ID cards with a copy with both sides of the smart ID must be provided. We also need proof of income. Applicants and all parents who are non-SASSA, they should provide latest pay slip which is not older than 3 months, UIF letter, appointment letter, or retrenchment letter. It must be noted that no affidavits will be accepted as proof for any of the funding requirements. We don't accept that. How and where to apply, I think that this will be on our platforms and the processes. I'm not going to read them here. If you do not have a digital device or access to the internet, do not stress, simply pop into your nearest National Youth Development Agency or to Song Center to apply following the same steps. But there are other details on how your application should be done. Prospective students are urged to apply to institutions via their application processes for a study place, as we must remind each other. NSFAS will tell you that you do qualify, but you will only be able to access that bursary if you are accepted at a public university or public TVET college. If you are not, obviously you won't get the money because it means you haven't met the criteria to be accepted at an institution. It's very important, therefore, and I hope that many students have already applied to their institutions of choice by now. Prospective students also can access the NSFAS application portal at the website www.nsfas.org.za www.nsfas.org.za. For more information on how to apply for NSFAS funding, there are various NSFAS platforms as well that we will actually be dropping into all our platforms, Ishmael, so that people are able to know. On fraud and hijacking of students' portal, I must say something about this because we are concerned about some of these shenanigans that are taking place. Students are urged to keep their personal details such as your ID number, your My NSFAS account login details and income information safe by not sharing these with anyone. These are the tips to avoid being scammed. Don't leave your personal information exposed and unattended, and log out of your My NSFAS immediately after using it. Should a student suspect that his or her account is hijacked, he or she can contact the relevant numbers. The main telephone number is 0860 247 653. Again, 0860 247 653. There are other details also on how you can be able to access this. Let me end by talking briefly about the ministerial task team which I appointed this year to look at comprehensive student funding, because I'm sure some are going to ask what's happening to that. I have appointed a ministerial task team to look at student funding policy issues for the future, and it is chaired by Professor Xoliswa Mtose, who is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Zululand. This ministerial task team is working hard, as I'm talking now, at developing policy proposal for a long-term student financial aid policy that takes into account the comprehensive student financial aid needs of the post-school system. The immediate challenge relates to identifying a sustainable mechanism for supporting students in higher education and training for the future, and in particular looking at alternative funding sources to widen funding for missing middle and postgraduate students while continuing to address support for students from poor and working class backgrounds. Despite the fact that government has increased funding exponentially for students in TVET colleges and public universities, we still do remain concerned about the categories of students who struggle to afford higher education, as well as the growing levels of student debt. This ministerial task team is reporting regularly to me, and it will be going back for its second report to Cabinet, hopefully by end of November. In conclusion, let me take this opportunity to thank the leadership of NSFAS and TVET colleges and universities, and the many people working at universities and colleges who support students to succeed. Your hard work is critical to the success of students. I would also like to thank the student leadership of our institutions, the trade unions in our sector, and the national student organizations for their support to students and to NSFAS and institutions. And once more, let me take this opportunity to wish our matriculants well and to say to them, we're ready for you for the 2022 academic year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the statement. We now go to the second session of our briefing by allowing members of the media to ask questions on WhatsApp. We have Takalani Mukwebo, who will be taking the messages for us. Taki, do we have any messages on WhatsApp?
Thank you, Ishmael. So far we have one message, or we have one question from Marvin Adams, who is a freelance journalist. And the question to the minister is, can the minister confidently say that NSFAS is reaching marginalized groups, and what was the percentage given to the colored communities? Back to you. Thanks, Ishmael.
Thank you very much. On the floor, do we have any questions? No questions? Minister, only one question.
Where is this part? I'm a present, by the way.
It's on.
Can someone just give me quickly that? Okay, I'll bring this back. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, we are confident that NSFAS is reaching the marginalized groups quite extensively. I did give you the numbers that we are talking now of approaching 800,000 students. Universities, we are talking at just under 500,000. Which, by the way, Tand, if I'm not mistaken, that should be more than 40% of your undergraduate students. Am I right?
It's more than 50%.
It's more than 50%, even better. More than 50% of undergraduate students at universities receive NSFAS. That's a very extensive reach. TVET colleges, the figures, I think that in some colleges they go up to 90% of the registered students who are actually reached by NSFAS. Just to remind what I had said, of those the NSFAS recipients, 92.9% are African students. Colored students are at 4.2%. The Indian students are at 0.7%, and the white students at 0.9%, and others at 1.4%. By the way, the other question I've been asked that has been not asked now, does NSFAS have age limit? No. You can apply for NSFAS irrespective of your age. If you still feel that you can go for it at age 80, you are more than welcome to apply for NSFAS in order to be able to study. This is, as I have said, a huge intervention by government. I have always said this, and it's important to actually do it. And working with NSFAS, we want to try and demonstrate this during the 30 years of NSFAS, which we should actually celebrate even into next year by showcasing what NSFAS does. most of the students who are NSFAS beneficiaries, they come from families where no one before, whether they are great-grandmothers or fathers, have ever seen a door of a university or a college. They are the first ones to actually be able to wear that black gown proudly walking down through on graduation ceremonies. So we are quite convinced that we are reaching quite significantly, and we are making quite a big change to the lives of many South African young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that response. Taki, do we still have more questions? No further questions. Thank you very much, Minister. We don't have further questions. Let me take this opportunity just to emphasize this important part on how to apply. We really urge our young people, students, or learners, prospective students, to visit the NSFAS website at www.nsfas.org.za. For those who can't or don't have access to internet, please visit our National Youth Development Agency offices in provinces and the Tusong centers, where they will have access to the internet and apply. Please do so from the 2nd, which is next week, Tuesday, of November to the 7th of January 2022. We wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Clarify something, Ismail, if we are still a platform, people are still listening, I don't know.
Yes, Minister, you can.
I hope I will get this right, but I just think, Thandi and Sam, that it's important that I clarify, especially this, that the people who are really going to be applying for the first time are your first-time entrants. Those who are continuing their internal processes that we go through, that their institutions will have to communicate with NSFAS to indicate whether they've met the requirements for progression or not. If they have met the requirements for progression within the guidelines of NSFAS, they will automatically be funded. So they don't have to apply from scratch. They just need to go and check with their financial aid officers. I think it's important. I just thought it's a detail that is important, that we are not just getting everybody applying de novo from the start. But also the other matter that may not be clear is that there may be students who are already doing their first year or second year, or are going to be going to do their third year, who in the past might not have qualified for NSFAS, but now because of the change of family conditions, they think they qualify for NSFAS. They are the ones also then who must go to the portal and be able to apply as first-time entrants because they have not been funded before. I just thought that clarification is very important for the different categories of students. Thank you very much.
Well, this brings us to the end of our media briefing. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen who are here and those who have joined us electronically. Thank you.
It's a challenge, this is.
It's a challenge, Minister.
Yeah, first what develop a language.
But last time you gave me such a nice one. Everybody in the office was saying,